Can't exactly remember where we left off. Got plenty of work that we've done over the past few weeks. Pulled off the wheels and the tires. 90-degree steel off the frame, which kind of made a mistake on that one, I guess you could say. But originally the 90-degree steel that was on the side here was for the fifth wheel plate. I'm probably not going to be running one except for display purposes, because I'm never going to pull a real heavy trailer. Pulled off a brake assembly and trying to replace these, so I'm tracking down part numbers and everything. But these, some of my trucks, they use a floater assembly. So you got your hub that slides on and it has the bearings on each side, and it's got a double jam nut that locks in the hub, and then the axle unbolts right here, and this just slides right out, and that actually splines into the differential. So any of you off-road guys would be familiar with them. The heavy-duty off-road trucks use that same style, and NASCAR adopted that style too for the race cars, which is pretty neat. It's a very durable design, and obviously for trucks they need durability. The rear end was full of water. This little vent hole was open, and so all the years of rain, when I drained it, it poured out a good, I'd say 2 gallons of water almost, and then the oil came out. So I put a scope down in there and looked at the gears, and surprisingly they're not rusted. And I put a mix of 2 gallons of WD-40 and a whole thing of Marvel Mr. Oil, and I've been rotating it every day just to count. So I'm going to relocate this air tank after it's all cleaned up, move it down a little bit. Basically I want to put another fuel tank right here. It's going to be a stubby one, because I want to have clearance for the exhaust to make, kind of a nice gradual bend right through there. So looks like I'm going to need about a 36-inch tank, and then I'll drop off that tank and replace it with a 36, so they mirror each other. I like the symmetrical look. So I've been starting on that. And mirrors, I haven't had a lot of luck finding mirrors. But what I did is actually found some I think these are 69 or 70 Peterbilt mirrors, which they fit pretty good. I just kind of lightly threw them up in here. I think what I'm going to do to make it look a little more era correct is trim right here and eliminate this center beam, because they were, in the old days, they just had individual mounts on top and bottom there. This week is going to be pretty awesome. So I was originally going to keep the 318 Detroit in here, the AB71. Then I just kept thinking about it more, and I'm much more, I don't know why, I just always liked the AB92 a lot more. So I'm running a forklift, going to be pulling off the cab, pulling off the nose, and then yank out the engine and transmission, and I have a military spec AB92 coming, which is still mechanical, has Jake brakes. This engine doesn't have Jake brakes. And really that's what pushed me and kept, I guess, persuading me to go to a different motor, because I tried to find Jake brakes for this engine from everywhere you could even think of. I found the bridges, and then people were saying that the heads were actually different, which I don't know if that's true or not yet. And then of course you need a different governor assembly, and it just kept snowballing further and further. And then you're going to go through all that work. Obviously I do an end frame, and you're racking up $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, and then when you're all said and done, you'll just still have a 318 horsepower, not very enthusiastic engine, I guess, when you're done. I mean, it's not like this has to be a super fast sport truck or something, but everything I work with, I tend to do lightweight with bigger power, and I figure this thing is all aluminum, so it's one of the lightest trucks around, being a day cab. Why not put some good power into it? So found a military spec AB92, rated at 445 horse, I think 1,300 foot-pounds or something like that. And I watched a couple dyno videos, and they consistently dyno, in the 460 range with almost 1,400 foot-pounds. So it's going to be a big step up on this guy. Oh yeah, I found a air horn. So looking around, I was missing an air horn. This guy is a Grover air horn, and I mounted it on there. And I got the running lights on. There's 2 more running lights that I have that are going to go right here. So that's pretty cool. It sounds really good. It's got the right kind of sound. talked to a couple truck guys, and they told me a Grover would probably be the one I wanted, because it's going to have the most appropriate sound. So, yeah. So basically, I've taken the manifolds off, and I pulled the blower boxes out of this, and the blower boxes are just it's just a little access cover, and it shows the bottom sleeve of the intake ports, and they call them blower boxes, I guess, because, you know, the compressed air is going right around there. But these trap a lot of debris and dirt and slime and goo. When I pulled this side and cleaned everything out, I found a lot of ring material. I don't know if that's from a previous rebuild and they didn't clear those out, which seems kind of weird that you'd do an in-frame and not pull those and clean them. It's possible. I mean, this engine runs really, really good, and I've put a bore scope down in there and rotated it. I don't see any ring damage whatsoever, so I'm thinking it's on a previous rebuild, but it's possible maybe that the ring damage is on the inside of the bore. Once I pull this motor out, I probably will yank the heads off just for my own curiosity. And I don't think I'm going to sell this engine because it's original to the truck, and if I don't see myself selling this truck anytime soon, but you never know. I'd like to keep the original motor with it. Not like I can get a lot of money out of this anyway. An old AV71, you know, probably only worth $1,500 or so in unknown condition. I mean, it's running condition, but it's not known on how good of a running condition it is. So yeah, I'm gonna rent the forklift and undo these motor mounts here. There's a cross beam, and this looks like it needs some help. The front pulley is digging in this aluminum cross member. It looks like the aluminum is either twisted or the engine's kind of slid back a little bit. I can't quite tell what happened here, but it's definitely not doing what it should there. And there's a lot of carnage and wear, so I'm hoping to fix that at the same time when I put the new motor in. Hopefully there's enough space. The AV92 has a clutch fan setup instead of this direct drive. That'd be nice for, you know, a little less racket and slightly more power. And again, not that it really matters, it's just more modern. So that's kind of where everything's at right now. I'm gonna check out the air pump and make sure it's doing good. I'm gonna redo all these gauges. I've ripped out all the air lines already and traced them all, so I'm just gonna start from scratch, pull everything out, redo it. This I found out is called a Lubra filter. It's kind of a additional oil filter that runs through the system, and I deleted that for now, but I don't think I'm going to put it back on the new engine. They seem to kind of abandon that idea in later years. So I'm also going to pull the cover off of the auxiliary and check it out and see what it looks like inside. Obviously I got all the air lines completely stripped off, and I need to get these drive shafts out and rebuilt, make sure they're all in tip-top shape. So we'll have new brakes all the way around, new drive shafts, fresh fluid in the transmission as long as it's in good shape. I don't need to rebuild it. Switch out the gas tanks, the frame will be all soda blasted, and then yank off the cab, the forklift, pull the nose, pull the engine and trans, and then it's really going to be easy to soda blast that. It'll just be wide open. Oh yeah, so the battery box on this side. So it has a battery box on this side. All it needs is a cover, which isn't too terrible. The other side, somebody put a fuel tank there at one time, and so it's just straight up missing just a big ass hole right here. I lucked out and found. What are you chewing on? What are you chewing on, Allie? That's Allie, the truck dog. She likes Peterbilt more, but I'm trying to make her like Kenworth. She's a hard sell. Eventually we'll get her there. But anyway, so I found an old actual 1960 battery box that I can put in right here. And so they'll match left and right. It's missing its cover too, so I'll just fabricate two of them at the same time. Obviously I'm going to rip this off, replace all the fuel system 100%, all the hoses, everything, top to bottom. So I have a whole whole new deal to keep everything happy with the new engine setup. That's pretty much where it's at. That's everything I can think of. Started on the mirror install on this side. I'm gonna pull these brackets off. So the air filter was a oil bath air filter, and I tried my hardest. I soaked that sucker in diesel oil and kerosene, gasoline, you name it, and worked it back and forth. And there's just no way to really, I feel, get a good clean on the element. And so I dug around some more, and I found a guy selling a, I think it's Donaldson air filter. That would be pretty era correct, but it takes a normal dry filter. The cap is different, and I saved my original cap that goes on there. I'm going to have to refabricate a larger diameter tube, because mine's 5 and the new one's a 7. So with the 7-inch air filter, I can finally get an air box on there and have a good air canister. And then of course this whole intake system's going away because the new setup has a turbo right here on the AV92. AV92 was a turbocharged engine, and that's how they got the extra power and also more displacement. AV71, 71 cubes per cylinder. A lot of you guys probably already know this, but some of you don't. So 8 stands for 8 cylinder, V configuration. 71 is 71 cubic inches per cylinder. Then you had the AV71T, which stood for turbo. Then you have the AV92, which is 92 cubes per cylinder. So if it's an AV92 TA, it would be 8 cylinder V configuration, 92 cubes, turbocharged, and then after cooled is what the A would stand for. So right underneath the supercharger on the newer engines is an intercooler, and that helps cool down the charge air and make it more reliable, make a little extra horsepower safely. So yeah, I'm pretty excited. It's going to be a tight squeeze. The manifolds come right up through here, and we'll turn right around this area and then come back around to the turbo. So right in this range is where the narrow nose is narrow. And so I'm going to have to see how tight that is. Eventually I'm going to make tubular stainless manifolds, just like I wanted to do on this engine. I was going to make some nice headers for it and exit them out. Now that it's going turbo, I still want to do that just to see what the sound and performance difference is. So I'll run it with the stock manifolds first, do some sound clips, and then I'll make a nice tubular stainless steel manifold setup, just because nobody's really ever done something like that, and see what it sounds like. I want to listen to this as much as possible, because that's the main thing I like about the Detroits, is just the way they sound. So a lot of loud trucks driving by. But yeah, I'm going to take off these brackets. Anything steel I want to try to remove and bead blast and paint. Probably like a rust red to match the patina of the body. And I'll go through and seal everything. But I want all the steel not to be rusty, at least so it doesn't continue to rot. And then I'll scuff and shoot this whole sucker clear coat. Rear window's been proven to be easy to get, but they need to template off of this, and I explained to them how hard that would be. So I'm hoping with the forklift I can just toss it in the back of my pickup truck, take it over to them because they need it in person, and then they can template off of that and make me a new rear window, and I can find the seals, which luckily on the truck forums there's guys that have been pretty helpful on Facebook groups about where to get stuff like these rubber seals here. You see it's just completely disintegrated, but what they can do is, if I give them a section of this rubber, then they can match it exactly, and then I give them the dimensions of the window versus the window frame, and that's all they need. They can size me up with the exact gasket basically, which I'm pretty excited to get the cab sealed up. So I did have the wheels all polished. There's a place in Indiana, and they're called Tri-State Wheel Polishing, but he did all the wheels for me and got them all polished up. So these were exchange, not I didn't have time, unfortunately, to have them polish my actual wheels. A couple of mine were in better shape and a couple were worse. So these are all fresh, brand new steer tires, brand new drive tires. Hopefully the look I'm going for is going to turn out right. Basically polished wheels, 2 polished fuel tanks. I'm going to do a half fender that's polished, and the polished exhaust, obviously, and that's it. So it'd be chrome mixed with the rest of the truck that's really rough. Nice frame. Everything is gonna, you'd be able to tell that someone put some care into it, but still old school and kind of rough looking on the body. So that's it, pretty much. That's the latest on the Kenworth project. It's starting to come together little by little. A lot of work. So once I pull the motor out, I'm just gonna tarp it, put it right here next to the truck. Oh yeah, before I forget. So I went up in there and I pulled out the auxiliary shifter. And you see the floorboards there. I'm gonna replace those with new wood. But that shifter, got that removed. It was a real pain in the ass. So this was the auxiliary shifter. As you can see, it's not very tight. Super worn out. I understand why they just leave these exposed. I just would have thought they would have put a rubber boot or something over top of that, but apparently they don't worry about that kind of stuff. And here's the shifter itself, which you can see is worn to a nub. And this sucker was so sloppy, I mean, you'd have better luck finding Hillary Clinton's soul before you found a gear. It was so loose in there. It really pretty much was ready to just fall out at any point. Wheel nuts, studs, nuts, whatever you want to call them. I'm probably just going to get all brand new. They're seen better days and pretty old. So I get some brand new fresh ones would be nice. So now I'm basically just going to be taking stuff off the cab, getting it ready to pull off the whole entire truck. What's really nice is everything. But yeah, everything on here all comes off nice. I haven't had anything really fight me. I guess that's the benefit of having a truck from New Mexico, is that it doesn't really rust. So I'm just getting these rods off of here and make sure everything is detached. Luckily, since the same motor's not going back in, I don't have to be nearly as careful, and like all these airlines are going to get replaced, so it's not nearly as important to be extra careful. Some of them I'll just go ahead and keep intact because it'll be easier to figure out where they went on reassembly. I don't want to get too confused on how this air system works, because I'm not really an expert in that field. But yeah, I'm just going to keep on stripping everything off of it, getting it ready to pull out of there.